Welcome, everyone. We are happy to be here on this beautiful sunny day in northern Michigan. And Lynn, if you could start us off, please, with a call to order. A roll call, excuse me.
Pam Moore. Here. Jody Lundquist. Connor Weaver. Here. Ken Warner. Here. Andy Robichuk. Laura Oblinger. Here. Mark Keeley.
Here. Thank you, and if you could rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and a review of the agenda. Any additions, deletions, rearrangements? Any conflicts of interest to be declared? All right, with that, we are going to move on to reports and presentations. Owen Wolfert is here for our missions and values in action. Owen, please join us. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. Again, my name is Owen Wolfert. I recently graduated from Traverse City West High School. And in 4 days, I move into the University of Notre Dame to study chemical engineering. I was never a full-time student here at NMC, but over the last 2 years, this college and its programs have had a huge impact on my life. Between my junior and senior year, through a chain of local connections, I ended up in a lab with Professor Roster, looking at something I'd never given a second thought to, microplastics. We tested whether plant mucilage could remove microplastics from water. And while those gooey lab experiments didn't produce much data, I found an interest and a passion that stuck. That fall, I kept reading about microplastics and staying in touch with Professor Roster. And I was able to come back to NMC this spring, this time in a formal independent study that he guided. I dove into a newer strain of microplastic research involving sound waves, and soon developed a concept for removing microplastics from water using ultrasound, a specific design that hadn't yet been demonstrated in research literature. The proof of concept still needs to be worked out, but my end of semester physics-based design placed me on the podium at the high school level of NMC's research symposium. That work also led me to pitch the concept at the Great Lakes Blue Tech Challenge, a regional competition that didn't lead to any larger outcome, except the chance to put myself out there and really grow from it. This summer, in my third independent study through NMC, I've continued that work and shifted to a new topic as well, microplastics in indoor air. As I'm here tonight, a small batch of air samples has just been counted, and if it means anything to you guys, maybe consider putting a HEPA filter in your laundry room. There's a lot of microplastics because of the dryer, but outside of the lab, I founded MicroClarity LLC this summer. It's a Traverse City company built on the same idea as my independent studies, taking microplastic science and translating it to be clear and useful to people. We do that through both social media and my website, microclarity.org, which is best known for a short quiz that shows people their own personal microplastic exposure. Now, I want to be clear, I'm no expert on microplastics. I'm a student who had an idea and some drive, but it was the Advanced Scientific Research Program, led by Professor Roster, that brought out that drive and that passion. And I believe it's this program that helped me not only apply to, but also be accepted by some of the top engineering and research institutions in the nation. When I leave for college in a few days, I'll carry this passion for learning and this desire to make a difference with me. And I hope NMC and its ASR program keep doing for others what they did for me. Thank you to Professor Roster, and thank you, NMC.
Fantastic, thank you, Owen. If you could stay for a second, Owen, we're gonna have some questions for you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start it off. So going to school, where are you with the two, you starting with where you're at with the ultrasound, that project, and then the next one as well. How are you gonna, where are you at with those? And then how are you gonna are you gonna maintain that while you're studying?
So with the ultrasound, the main constraint with that was equipment constraints. There were certain things like a high-level amplifier. Those are hard to obtain, and they're hard to find in general. So that was an example of one constraint with ultrasound. And the last 2 or 3 weeks of the summer, I stopped looking at that after testing all throughout summer different techniques. And hope maybe in the future another NMC student can pick up where I left off with that research and maybe have something more come of it, which would be great. And on the air sample side, I hope to maybe collect air samples in my dorm in college if I can. But during breaks, I hope to come back here. I've grown close with Professor Roster, and I think I can come back here on breaks and maybe come in and use the lab, use some microscopes, which would help, and just kind of work as I can when I'm back in town. So.
Very good. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'd like to
Laura?
comment. I took your test.
Yeah.
It's just very impressive what you're doing.
Thank
and
you.
I got a good score, by the way.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm not drinking.
I'm glad.
out of the-
Nice.
My HIPAA filter's on order.
Awesome.
And thanks to your website, because
Yeah.
you can just connect right to the product. But I just want to offer gratitude for what you're doing. We're really honored that you are starting your professional journey through NMC and onward, and I have a feeling, pretty strong one, that you're on to great things.
Thank you.
So thank you for starting here at NMC, and please always come back and bring your knowledge. And I have been able to do that as an alum, and it feels really good as this place starts,
Yeah.
kind of spearheads your career. So congratulations, and don't forget about us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. NMC has done a lot for me, so
Good.
what I can do to give back is always great. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Appreciate
Thank
it. Good luck. Next, we have our faculty report. I'd like to welcome Deb Farrow, math instructor, for Calculus You Can Touch. Welcome, Deb.
Thank you. So I'm short, I can't really see over this, but I'm Deb Farrow. I've been teaching here at NMC since 1988. I teach all levels of math and have from the very lowest to the very highest. But let's see, just right arrow? Okay. So I took my first multivariable calculus class in 1981. This is before there were calculators and before there were computers. I never saw a calculator until I was in grad school. I probably touched one twice in undergraduate. There was nothing like we have now. But when I took multivariable calculus, the books didn't have pictures. It was like using a cookbook. If it looks like this, turn to this algorithm and do this algorithm and crunch these numbers and use these formulas, and there's no understanding. And, and the greatest and the brightest, which doesn't include me, they have that understanding because it's just innate in them, but most of us didn't, and we couldn't see it, and we couldn't touch it. And so I didn't start teaching multivariable calculus here until 2014, because you have to be here a long time before you get up into those upper level classes. So it was a brand new experience, and technology had really advanced. So the first technology that we used, let's see if I can, is there a mouse?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Was this CalcPlot 3D, which is a wonderful, it's a wonderful web application, and it allows my students to input their functions and then be able to manipulate them and really look at them. And there's a lot of stuff we can do with this, but there's a lot of stuff we can't do with it. We can't touch it. So that's my biggest thing is my students need to be able to touch that and to understand it. And so let's get back here. All right. And so I would have them build things with paper and scissors and tapes. There'd be days in my classes where Students were busily constructing things, but it takes a long time to construct a really good model. So here's one that I used for a demonstration before I had the stuff I have now. Made out of silly string, so my online students could visualize something and see what they needed to make. I regularly, my students call them Play-Doh days, I regularly take Play-Doh to class because we can do a lot with Play-Doh, but not everything because Play-Doh gives. So we had some opportunities. I had some opportunities. This first opportunity, the Raising Calculus to the Surface workshop, I was finally able to attend in 2023. I was supposed to attend it in 2020, but we all know what happened in 2020. And so everything was shut down, and it wasn't until 2023 that the workshop was put back in place. And I, along with, I think there were about 16 professors from around the United States, met in California for a week. And we worked on these projects as students, and then we worked on these projects as instructors. And then at the very end, we were asked in our last day, in our last couple of hours, could you find a way to fit one of these into your class this coming fall? And it's like, no, I'm going to find a way to fit all 10 of them into my class this fall. One is not enough for me. So I spent the rest of the summer figuring out how to rearrange the content of my class so my students could touch these things and could do things. And it came with this project. It was an NSF funded project. It was wonderful. I was able to attend it for very little money, very little cost to NMC. And I came home with a set of 12 of this size surface. Each one of them has a contour map that goes with it. Then I have another kind of map also that we can do other things with. I didn't bring that one with me today. A couple of other tools my students this semester thought, or spring semester thought, this tool is pretty archaic, and they worked on making a different model that would work a little better. I never did get the final prototype of that, but I may see some of those students this year. And came with a really nice little level tool, lots of really cool things, and I can have my students investigate a problem, and each time we use it, this surface represents something different. So sometimes it might represent the amount of lead in the soil, sometimes it might represent a piece of cake. Just depends on what we're studying, but I can have them, we can do different things and make sure that they truly understand what it is they're trying to do. But, again, and these are wonderful, I love them, we can write on them, they get markers, we can write all over them. And so that was the first opportunity. And then we had a second opportunity to be a participant in an NSF grant with the author of the CalcPlot 3D, who I see often in my travels to conferences, and he was at that other workshop. And so his NSF grant is to try to get more people, more multivariable calculus instructors involved in using models in class. And so this NSF grant that we at NMC, math instructors at NMC are participating in, provided us with a wonderful 3D printer, which actually I have working right now to make something for a Math 120 class, which isn't multivariable calculus, but it's a model. And then a thermoformer, which makes this kind of a plastic thing. So the 3D printer will print with surfaces like this, that I can print enough of these so my students can take them home. And they can use them, and I can have homework questions that have them use this. So I have one take-home test question, they get this. The first thing they have to do is they have to orient it and communicate that to me, and then they have to find different points on here. For example, show me a point where the first partial with respect to x is positive and the first partial with respect to y is negative. Find that spot on here, identify it for me. And so there's more to just knowing what those symbols mean. It's what do the symbols mean reference to this. And then last semester, so we just got this printer, they have this really cool activity with, is that my time? Okay. To take triple integrals and find the volume that triple integral represents. So I made this little set. I need to make more for this semester. So each student had a set to take home, and they had a list of questions to do, and they had matched them up, and then communicate to me how and why they need to match. So really, really good experiences for my students.
Well, thank you so much. Where were you 25 years ago when I needed you? But what I would say too is, well, let me ask you this first. How long have you been teaching in this way?
I've always taught in this way. I just haven't always had these tools. So from day one here, I've always tried to have my students touch their math. So in some way, touch it to understand it. And so on the lowest level, my highest level, I have accumulated a lot of different manipulatives over my decades here at NMC. So my students, so I can take something in class, if it's factoring or if it's geometry, that they can touch and feel and move around.
I think that's fantastic. That would have resonated so much with me, I feel. Yes, Kennard.
Yeah, different people learn different ways, and what you're doing is great, is you're introducing people to different ways to learn. So some students who might not otherwise get it will pick up what you're trying to teach. One practical application you might suggest to them is lake seabed, Great Lake seabed contour charts, which can be used for near-shore navigation. With your depth sounder, you go fixed distance to the left, fixed distance to the right, record what you got, look for the patterns, and you can pinpoint where you are. Not terribly accurately, because the seabed changes every time there's a storm, but it does help.
Right, yeah, yes. And so they get kind of that idea with matching up these surfaces and figuring out where they fit on those contour maps and, arranging them so they understand that. But asking them, well, how would it change if it were depth is a good question to add to this. Well, what would that thing look like if it were showing you depth instead of height?
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
I was curious in the last few years, how has dual enrollment increased or decreased in some of your classes? And it could be depending on the class you're teaching, but I was just kind of curious what you're seeing.
So I see the majority of my dual enroll students in Calc 3 and differential equations, and they're about 50% of my class every time. So it stays pretty constant. Sometimes they're a little more than 50% of the students, but they run about 50% of the class. Understand this year we're supposed to have a smaller number of dual enrolled. I haven't looked at my class lists because things have changed in self-service and it's not as easy to identify who my dual enrolled students are. So I'm not quite sure what my numbers are yet for this fall.
So those are the students who've maxed out with BC in high school?
So they took their advanced placement test and they scored, so they have credit for Calc 1 and Calc 2, and so they come
Yeah.
here and take Calc 3 differential
Yeah.
equations. They're junior, they're senior. Most of them are seniors, but I do get a few juniors in there.
I'm just curious, is the AP curriculum starting to use manipulatives as well, or do you know?
I do not know. I do know that at the end of every school year, I get an email from our central AP instructor who says, I've got 2 weeks left, what do you want me to cover with them? And I'll tell them, usually it's some skill that I'm seeing, they've got a real weakness in this skill. If you can spend some time on this skill, so they have it in the fall, and they don't have to work so hard to get it figured out.
That's a great relationship.
It is a wonderful relationship that we have.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and for all of your good work. Thank you. Okay, next I'd like to welcome Mayor Amy Shamrow and Jason Slade up for our strategic plan, Anchor and Edge Strategic Drivers Community Partnerships. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having us. Mark, I agree with you completely. I remember cutting those out with cardboard, and it was awful. And so to see that 3D printing technology being used in our calculus classes is great. I think it ties in also really well with the community partnerships that Amy Shamrow and I will be sharing today, because here was our math faculty working with NSF to identify a way to get equipment that we didn't have. And it really lines up with our value around stewardship, but also those partnerships. And like you pointed out, the ability to learn in different fashions. And just for the board to know, because you may not all be aware, Owen and the work that he was doing around advanced scientific research, the microplastics work and the course development or the support for the course development came from OOPS, so that will continue through the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. But we worked with Owen closely and Professor Roster as he was looking for equipment to build out the microplastics, and then the very unique offering through advanced scientific research. So again, your support allowed that to happen. So thank you very much for that. As you noted, Amy has many roles in this region. Today she'll be representing NMC as an industry navigator and go into a little bit more about her role. I'm going to start off giving you an overview of our community partnerships, what that means to the strategic plan, and then I always think it's important to use these drivers to go into some specifics. And so in your board packet, you saw hopefully the full memo that laid out all the opportunities for our strategic partnership around community partnerships. I divided that up into 3 pillars, looking at student skills and regional employers, economic development, and then building community and supporting employees. And then I want to drill down into a few specifics today, kind of like we did last month. And so when I look at our strategic drivers, just a quick reminder, this was added to the strategic plan. They've been a definite value, and again, they're enhancing more and more of our objectives and our actions as we move forward. When we look at our community partnerships, we wanted partnerships that was deepening engagement with the community, drove regional prosperity, and then also was not transactional. It was an opportunity for us to have partnerships that were meaningful for our employees, staff, faculty, and students. And so these have been very valuable. And so I just wanted to highlight a few that I thought would be of interest to the board and talk about how the community partnership driver actually enhanced those objectives. So big picture, when we talk about community partnerships, it's really important for us to better prepare our students and support those regional employers. And so we're seeing that with our durable and artificial skills work. So we're tapping into the needs of regional employers and university partners. We just sat down with Leads Today and President's Council, who shared out to President Nissley and the other vice presidents about the work that they were doing to learn more about the AI needs of our employers in the region and our university partners. We're working through grant level initiatives with the Center for Rural Innovation and others to better prepare our students to support those needs. So if we didn't have that community partnership piece, this thing probably would have just sat alone. We still would have had a strong objective around artificial intelligence, but now we're deliberately looking at what are the needs of our region? What do we need to offer? And then how do we partner up? And so we can even go deeper in this one and talk about our NSF grant that we have with GVSU that's focused around AI initiatives as it relates to marine technology. And then also a pending grant that they have, which if they receive will help support them as they develop AI-related curriculum that can be deployed to the community colleges. Community partnerships are also key when it comes to opportunities for our students. And so through our objectives that we've had, we're actually finding employers that are incentivizing students to come to NMC. So these are adding opportunities for our students to work directly in their field of study. So specifically, let's say in the Great Lakes Culinary Institute, they're getting support from their employer to come back, work with Chef Les and her team. This directly benefits our region and the college. And so we're deliberately calling out these partnerships. And then I'm going to highlight here in a second recruiting opportunities that support specialized programs like surveying. And so this driver, allowed us to have partner involvement along the whole way. It provided opportunities for NMC students. I would also say faculty and staff. And it's beneficial to the students and employers. And then one of the things I like, it's not transactional. I really enjoy the partnerships and support the partnerships that allow us to grow as a college and as a region. And so this is community partnerships in action. So as Kennard and others recall, the surveying program came to us as an opportunity from industry. They said, we are lacking surveyors and surveyor technicians that we need to deploy in this region. So we developed this program from scratch with industry. And then through the hard work of our foundation, we continue to get industry support for outreach, marketing. We have a donor-funded recruiter, and we have industry-sponsored equipment and software. And so that industry sponsorship and equipment and software is hundreds of thousands of dollars per year that we receive. More importantly, we have a program that was recognized by the state of Michigan and other national organizations as being a leader in surveying education. And that's our recruiter, Shelley Vandermeulen. She's standing in front of our NMC surveying recruitment trailer. And so that is a trailer that we bring to events like My Career Quest, SHARM outreach days, to local high schools, to regional high schools, employer events, Michigan work opportunities, and more, so that they can get hands-on experience with surveying technology. And so there's Shelley using one of NMC's trucks, bringing the trailer on site, and then that is one of our surveying instructors that is showing a student how to use a total station. And so here they're getting hands-on experience. They can go inside the trailer, test out equipment, see modeling software, interact with simulators and more. And it highlights not only traditional land surveying, but like we try to do, it brings into the student the drone activities that are related to surveying and also our marine tech opportunities. And then again, we are continuing to look for those opportunities for our students when it comes to the economic drivers. So we have our Northern Michigan Blue Tech Innovation Hub, which is tied to the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center, North Sky Consortium, which continues to make gains as we look at drone testing operations in Northern Michigan, tied both to traditional sectors as well as military and defense. And then NOMI Attainment Collaborative, which Amy will talk about a little bit more. But our community partnerships are key in terms of driving economic growth for our students, but also supporting the regional needs of our industry partners. And then I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about some of these pathways.
Sure. So thank you all for having me here tonight. I know on a beautiful night, it can be very difficult to sit in the seats. We will keep it brief. But I did want to start by talking about, we have her name Emma here, and it's Cheryl, who presented to you a couple months ago, so she might look familiar there from our team. But these industry-informed pathways is the result of the collaborative that we've been getting together, as well as the hard work that's been done with our NMC teams here, of identifying the different paths for people who maybe are not currently students, have been working in a different field or a different industry, and how we can get them moving on that path of upward mobility. So we have our partners at Northwest Michigan Works, who are often the first touch point for people looking for these jobs, whether it's by force or being out of work, or just as a resource in our community. And we as NMC obviously have our pillar here with all of the things that we offer, all the options. And I think, though, that much like we're all getting used to, people often still think of that as a course catalog. And what Cheryl and our team has been working on is all the other options that are out there that don't necessarily require you signing up for an entire semester of classes, but still can put you on that trajectory and move you forward. And so the case here that we're talking about was a young woman who was kind of not sure what she wanted to do. Cheryl spent some time with her. The long-term goal is to get into nursing and get more into the healthcare path, but the short-term goal that would help improve her life immediately with better pay and better options and building that foundation was doing a medical assistance program. So that's the easy way we can step in, and this is what we've talked about with broadening the front door, making the front door wider and more accepting of people. This is also what we've talked about for maybe the people who don't think of themselves as students, but we know they really can be. We know that there's that motivation or that impetus for them to go. So now she's working at Munson Healthcare. Munson is part of our team and our collaborative, and she's working towards getting her nursing. Munson has support. We have support through our foundation. We have Reconnect. There's all kinds of great programs out there that we are helping her to focus on and take care of her immediate needs and survival and success here, but also moving forward with her long-term career plans. So here's a little bit of a picture, and I wanted to show it because I highlighted Munson here, but we can see all the different partners we're working with in our 10-county region here. The NOMIAC region is 10 counties, our Prosperity Region 2. So we have everybody from 20 Fathoms to Grand Traverse County, our education partners, Grand Valley, Central. We have West Shore Community College. We have actually even Kirkland, who's not outside of our region, but draws a lot from our border there, NCMC. All of these groups together and more are what make us so strong, because what ends up happening is whatever course someone wants to take, it can start right here. And it could be a course that's not an official, or not a degree path. It can be credits towards a degree path that might have to be finished somewhere else, and it can be certifications. And so that is what we are really working on here, is across the 10 counties of expanding that. Again, that quick reminder, this is the attainment of 60% in the state of Michigan by 2030. Our regional goal here is starting at 49 to get to 55%. And all of these little pieces are how we can do this. And you can't, it's how do you eat the elephant, right? How do you attack the elephant in the room? It's one bite at a time. And so right now, I'm happy to say we're at 760 certificates and licenses to date. We're about a year in, a little over a year in, out of our goal of about 2,000 for our region. So when you hear those numbers, sometimes it can seem daunting, but when we sat down with it at the beginning about a year ago, looked at it, maybe we're a little Pollyanna, but said, oh, 2,000, that doesn't seem that bad. I mean, that was kind of half my high school when I was here and before we separated, to date myself. And so this is really attainable. We call it the Attainment Collaborative, but it feels very attainable because we have so many great partners working on it in our region. And so where I step in, and you had heard from Cheryl, is working on individual kind of one-on-ones. Hers is very direct, and hers is a very obvious connection. Where I step in is the industry navigator role. And what I do with that is I do outreach for trainings for businesses. And so mine is not as exact, right? People aren't going to walk away inherently with a credit, but they are going to be walking away with a different experience of NMC. And I like to call it as college for people who don't think they want to go to college. They get that experience of getting the hands-on or getting that real-world application. And because of how we set up things here and how we are all working on this collaborative together, the work they're already doing often can count in some way. And I always use the example of my father when he went back to nursing school as a paramedic and had to take classes where he was sitting around and saying, I know all of these terms, why am I learning them? I've been doing this for 20 years. We give credit for that now, and I don't think it still has quite permeated. So that's one of the things I get to share with people. We also, I use this as work with MIOSHA and some of these other trainings that people are already sending their employees to. And so those, a lot of people don't realize count for college credits. We just completed a level 2 safety and health management certification for MIOSHA. And we invited GVSU, several people from GVSU, because we were able to tell them that after completing the second course, they now had 11 credits at GVSU towards an occupational safety and health degree. And GVSU was able to talk about how they're changing their courses to be more accessible online. We at NMC were able to talk about all the credits that people here could take before they would have to go on to GVSU. And that's the beauty of this collaborative and this partnership that we've been working on. And that's just one example. We've also been talking about identifying skill gaps in the region. I'm really excited that just this week is our 3rd session now. We had a local employer reach out to us and say, look, I don't need my people to be in a 12-week intro to electric class. I need them to know enough that they're not going to hurt themselves and they're going to be able to change parts. I see some head nodding, so you're going to be interested in this. So we worked with Brad Wertman, who's one of our staff, or one of our instructors, with the employer themselves. They put some of their management through the first week at the beginning of August. In the middle of the week, and I take credit for this, but I can't take a lot, they emailed and said, we're going to send 4 more people, and Brad's going to teach them next week, and we're going to do 3 more days with 4 hours apiece. And I'm happy to report that as we were moving into Parsons-Stewlands today, because extended education has moved, we invite you to come join us, I noticed the classroom next door, I was like, oh yeah, they signed up a whole other class. So we've now had this course that's not a full course, but it is instructional, and it is at an NMC campus, bringing in over 10 employees of a local employer, getting much needed skills and training. We were able to put it together in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be able to repeat that and offer it either as an extended education course and or for other employers that have 5, 6, 10 people that might need to go through this. That is what we can do through extended education that complements what everybody else at NMC is doing so well. We can be nimble, we can be responsive, and it just helps us to fill that gap. We can work with our partners across the region to find the right instructors if we don't have them. Someone on one of the trustees might be able to share a story about when someone really needed a CNC Swiss machine operator instructor and nobody knew it, but through our connections we were able to find somebody at NCMC. So that is where we can do this. We can find the solutions, and we can be nimble, and we can be quick about it, and we can create that program development that they need. We can help to improve the workers' stations in life as well. I mean, your valued employees that have been well trained are now going to be able to also get you as an employer in the region better return on your investment too in those employees. And we have all these facts that show too, when you invest in your employees, they are loyal to you, right? Whether it's apprenticeship or training. And so this picture here is me with our MIOSHA group holding their certificates, all now with 11 credits at GVSU. So that's what we're, in a nutshell, working on, and there's so much more. I was answering a question earlier and saying the thing I love about this job in the last year is I never get bored because it's always shifting, the demand's always shifting, though what we're hearing from the employers is always shifting, and we're always able to kind of run ahead and try to respond as best we can because we have that ability in our department.
Fantastic. You know what, we always comment on how much information Jason can cram into the allotted amount of time. I think Mayor Shamrow might be right there with you, Jason. So thank you both.
I appreciate a good brief that gets to the point.
That was a lot of information, really appreciate it, and really exciting stuff. Really, the rapid response, being nimble, all of those things, is timely, and it's exciting for the future of our relationship with the businesses, NMCs. So, yes, Ken, questions?
Yeah, I want to go back to the idea of incentivizing employers. The surveying one is a great example of that, working in both directions. Do we have any specific examples or programs for incentivizing employers with regard to individual students, so that you come out, you go in early with some kind of a promise of an internship and a later job, anything of that kind?
So Munson does a very good job of designing programs to support their employers through whether it's surge tech or nursing or the other pathways. And so they have incentives that are built in to their employment contracts, and it can happen very early in that pipeline. We have a number of apprenticeship pathways that will kind of extends that route. And then we also recently, with support from the board, this was a few years ago, changed some of our structures in terms of Grand Traverse County-based industries that they could send employees through at the resident rate. And that incentivized more companies to become third-party payers and pay for a student through that pathway. So that opened up a number of doors. And so we offer that and work closely with our admissions team and the registrar to make sure that if a payment didn't go through, that we just don't drop that student, right? We actually work with that employer, and that system has worked out fantastic, and that's support that we've had. So Ken, we're seeing it with a couple individual companies, and then when we have larger discussions, that always comes up, whether it's from our manufacturing council or healthcare. What are you doing? How are you incentivizing? And so we're looking at that as a model for others.
Yes, Laura.
I think just one question. So this is an incredible way to bridge to our business community. We've been talking about that for years, and so well done, first and foremost. But so as a result, though, what are we planning for when the 3 years is over? How will this continue?
No, that's a great question. So I've been working really closely with Laura Stevens, director for our extended education and training, and we want to show the ROI for this grant. We're only a year in, but we're already collecting data. We're looking at the number of students that are moving over from the non-credit to credit side. It's tied with some of the metrics in our strategic plan, and so we want to show the value of this, not just from a feel-good sense, but also like from a dollar and cent sense of like, this is something we should pursue. These are how we're bringing students in, the custom training element and others. So it's a thing that Laura and I have been working closely on of like, how do we show this as a value? And then also kind of with the theme of community partnerships, are there partners out there that want to support this with us? Where there's opportunity for Michigan Works and others. So we would like to continue this on.
Okay, that's great. Well, my second question where
Sorry, I was just going to say really quickly too, with the custom training, what we're already finding, and we're just seeing this in the results, especially of this last 3 weeks, of having the special attention to certain employers is actually having somebody being able to dedicate to that, and in this case, is actually bringing them back for more training. I've now on my third conversation with, repeat conversations with the third business that is now bringing us back for training they did a year ago or within the last 6 months as well, where that was kind of something we were missing. That's not a direct enrollment number, but that is through NMC's custom training that they are paying NMC for and recognizing the talented staff that we have available to teach whatever they're looking for. I wanted to add that too.
Great. Sorry. Well, my wheels are spinning with this, so I do have another question, or maybe just a comment. what's spinning is that there's so many extensions to this. You're really engaging with the business community, and I think about our foundation, and we have so much uncovered business relationships to have yet. This program could really open some doors to non-traditional businesses that we aren't engaged with, and then where the foundation comes into thought is that this is a great way to start connecting with more of that corporate giving and asking, and great staying focused, but as we look at it strategically, there are lots of opportunities with this program.
Yeah, you're right.
Well
Yes,
done.
Andy.
I'm going to pivot just a little bit, but it really relates to this. My pull to this organization and to where this came from was from the part of NMC that used to do all this work for training with businesses. It got spun off into MMTC, which then, for those of you who don't know, was part of our campus, and recently their lease was not renewed and they moved off campus. That's why I had a huge tie to this organization. That's why a lot of other businesses did as well. You know, we were in training with Strata, with Tentcraft, with Hayes, with Thompson Medical. All of those organizations were through this channel, and a lot of that stuff happened even when it spun off to MMTC. It happened on this campus. So you had all these businesses coming to this campus, even if it wasn't related to NMC. When we looked at the campus change and when we looked at Boardman, one of the things we talked about was there was lots of room on campus that was not being used. Now we're at the point where we're not renewing leases with organizations that are on campus because we don't have space for them. My question for you, Lynn, is I'd like to know, are there any other organizations that we've done this to or that we're looking to do this to that are on campus? Because I personally think it's not a good thing and not in our interest, because MMTC brought in tons of businesses, and that was on this campus. I know we're doing lots of collaboration. They're on, you know, they're on your sign. We're doing lots of things with them, but it's not on the campus anymore. And that's a huge thing, having butts in boats, having butts in seats, having people on campus draws them to have one more tie to who we are and what we are and what we're doing. And so if there are others that this is happening to, I'd kind of like to know it as a board member.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Pam.
One thing I really appreciate, Amy, is the metrics that you gave us and that are in the PowerPoint. And you have done that before with, do we say NOMIAC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, new vernacular.
With NOMIAC, and I'll be interested in a further breakdown as the number of certificates and people getting training grows as to what the industries are within that. That would be really interesting, because that's kind of a clue as to what the potential growth industries are in the region, and I love all the collaborations. And, you know, Jason, I may just be missing it, but I'd really also, in the part of the presentation you did, know more about metrics, quite frankly, associated with some of what you're talking about. Like, you know, how much has the surveying program grown? I think you've talked about it before, but I don't know if it's continuing to grow. And then just again, the number of internships that these collaborations, these partnerships are creating, the number of students whose tuition or cost of attendance actually is being supported by employers. And again, over time, how is that growing? So I'd just love to see some numbers. I'm a numbers person.
Yes, and just so like we're clear, and we can get some of those. When we designed the strat plan, the objectives are where we had the metrics embedded. And so like we will have the metrics around the data for the distinguished programs and the other ones. And so we were designing these drivers to complement those objectives. And so we will be tracking some of the metrics in the objective space on there.
Okay.
And then we could dig into, I think that the ones you've listed right there, we will or should have.
The internships.
Yes.
Employer-sponsored students.
Yeah.
And I think what Ken's saying too, even you finish this program, you got a job, you got a full-time job with us. That's a guaranteed job. you work here while you're in school, you know, it'll lead to this, that kind of thing would be great. And that's, of course, wonderful things for those who are working in the enrollment side to know when they talk to students, to have those numbers and those programs.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Amy.
And now's the time for public input. Lynn, do we have any?
None.
All right, we're going to move on. Next, welcome President Nisley for your update, please.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on first three, what I think of as points of pride, and I think most of you are aware of them, but deserve some mention, I think, publicly here. And the first is coming out of this weekend. I think everyone saw the Record Eagles 2026 Leaders of Northern Michigan. And two things to highlight. First, two of our staff, John Luchko as head of the Great Lakes Water Studies Institute, and Alex Tank, who heads our International Affairs Forum, were both recognized, which is a tremendous positive thing for the college. Also, two trustees were recognized, not only Kennard Weaver, but the entire Weaver family and Jody Lundquist. And I think when you kind of pull back and you look at that one institution or one organization of NMC, from board to staff, and you know the breadth of that recognition. So really proud of that, and hopefully something you can take out into the community and your talking points as well. The other is we did have our scholarship open this last month, and thank you to all of you who either volunteered or golfed or supported in some way. It was our 42nd annual, and remember this was only our second time back after the hiatus. And to remind you that since those last 42 years, we've raised over $2 million. So it's a very significant fundraiser that supports scholarships at the college. And this year, while Megan told me they still don't have the official numbers, she said it's trending or looking like we're going to raise more than we did last year. So again, positive momentum building off of that. And I think there were over 200, was almost 210 golfers who participated. So tremendously well received by the community. The third point of pride is around our 75th and explicitly or specifically our Explore History Day. And again, thank you to everyone who was able to attend that. We debuted our 75th video, and if you didn't get to see that, we will be sharing it tomorrow at the opening conference. We also had a panel discussion as well as a history walk. It was incredibly well received. To put that in a larger context, as you know, we're about 6 months or more into the 75th year. Some stats recently Megan and Craig shared with us. We've had almost 5,000 attendees to our events, our 75th events so far. Things like the Community Block Party, the Explore History Day, and the coming next month on September 19th, if it's not in your calendar, the 75th Gala or celebration event. So it's been incredibly well received by the community. Switching gears out of the points of pride, I do want to speak to one of the action items that's a little bit later on the agenda, and it's the Osserlin funding plan, which the Building and Site is bringing forth support of the recommendation that we move ahead with that funding plan. And I share it with you because sometimes we get into the habit of, kind of nose down, we go through these things quickly. And I just want to make sure I lift it up a little bit higher and give us pause to say, this is a really big deal. And I'll try to shine the light on why I think it is a big deal. I think everyone knows that since 2021, we've been trying to get the funding for this. We've invested significant time and energy vying for the state capital outlay, and as you know, we've been unsuccessful with that in terms of our trying to finance the project. Even though last year we were ranked number 3 on the state's list, this year we were ranked number 6, but I think as everyone knows, it's a highly political process, and those things didn't matter at the end of the day. So we've remained unsuccessful in trying to secure that funding. And that even includes us the last 2 years hiring legislative advocates to help with that, and even with the legislative advocates, still unsuccessful. This does have a happy ending, though, so stick with me here. I think you know that essentially Troy, you know, and myself and PC, we said time to put our foot down with this, and we were able to because we now have that diversified revenue stream that came to us from the Boardman Lake campus sale. So in other words, we were able to craft a funding plan that wasn't reliant on state funding. So what you're seeing today in the action plan is a $13.5 million proposal for us finally to move ahead with not what's a bricks and mortar project, even though it is a renovation. It's a student success project, because we know that that one-stop shop is going to help us support greater student success. And again, from that $13.5 million, $10 million is coming from the Boardman Lake campus sale proceeds, which again, we could have done without. So I do want to recognize Troy for the incredible hard work, not just with getting this plan together, but sticking with it over the last 6 years. Also, people like Lindsay, who've helped us see this as a student success project, and again, with Todd strongly advocating for that. And the foundation team, because this 13.5, while it has 10 million of Boardman Lake campus sale proceeds, it also has 2 million of support from the foundation, which again, we're one of those few colleges that can lean so heavily upon a foundation because they are so supportive. So we're really proud of the foundation team. And I'd say thank you, because if it weren't for the Boardman Lake campus sale, we wouldn't be sitting here today. We'd be, again, trying to figure out how do we go back for another bite at the apple, which hasn't produced anything for 6 years. So I'll switch gears and just lastly say, reminding you, tremendous excitement on campus this week because it's Welcome Week. And tomorrow we have our opening conference, which is that time when we bring all of campus together, our faculty, our staff, and basically have the kickoff. It's maybe what some of you would think of as a convocation type activity. Thursday and Friday we have the dorm move-ins, so I'd encourage you between Thursday and Friday if you can. And if you can't do that, Friday night we've got kayaking, Saturday we've got pancakes, so there's a lot of opportunities. If you want to volunteer or engage either actively or passively, you can come and watch, you can do whatever you want, but it's a time, as I think all of you know, that there's just a tremendous amount of renewed fall energy on campus, and we're really looking forward to those things. So I think I'll stop there and look to any questions or comments.
None to be had. Okay, well, we're going to move on into my update. And today I want to take a moment to recognize a special person who has spent 5+ years giving her time to this institution and will not be returning as a trustee after this next cycle. And she spent a significant amount of time helping me personally, as a mentor, along with Kennard, on this board when I first came on, and to prepare me to take over for her as board chair. So I would like to thank publicly Laura Oblinger for her heart, her mind, and her leadership here at NMC for the last 5.5 years. And, think of the countless hours that she has contributed to this institution. And with that, she will get this tiny little pin.
Oh.
So I'd like to recognize Laura from the MCCA. They give you a 5-year pin.
That's right.
Michigan Community College Association, and it's the cutest, tiniest. Little. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations on your 5 years, and thank you so much for everything you do.
Of course. It's tiny, tiny. Thank you so much. Oh, the lid, yes, thank you.
Okay, with that, we are going to proceed to discussion on our MCCA Summer Conference and that report to be presented. Glenn?
It's just the space for anybody who attended or want to share.
So I would like to start if I could. Kennard had mentioned early on when, prior to my first trip to the island for this conference, about taking notes. And I think I got a cramp this year because there is so much information. And I think for me, the most interesting part of the conference was a different energy and the focus on, the future of technology and population decline, and just really interesting how 1 year to the next, how things have shifted. A lot of great information, but I'd love to hear your thoughts for those who attended as well.
Sure. Okay.
Pam?
I've kind of focused on the first day with the trustee institute part of it, on presidential evaluation, compensation, contracts, that sort of thing, and did learn a lot. And I did take notes and I kept those PowerPoints, but I didn't produce a report. I also found that, and I'm going to forget his name, but the speaker on the political landscape in Michigan was outstanding. Those of us who were there, I think all agreed on that, including not only what is happening this year, but his knowledge of the past in Michigan and how it can help inform, because, we're purple and how we go back and forth and all of that. It was just, he was extremely knowledgeable. It was really great. And as always with MCC, I think just getting to know trustees from other institutions and how do they do particular kinds of things is just meeting them as people too, because it's a really wide-ranging group of people. And so that, I found it extremely valuable. The AI presentation, less so, but we don't have to talk about that.
No, I have something else to say about that once we're done, though. Ken, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Actually, very much agree with Pam. Certainly the political, that was the highlight of the meeting as far as I was concerned. He was extraordinary, and I would love to hear him 2 years from now when you have a national election as well as a state one. But I thought he was one of the most thoughtful commentators on the political scene that I've ever heard. And as Pam was just alluding to, but I'll be more direct about it, the speaker on AI was terrible.
Yeah, she was.
I thought it was really disgraceful that she came so unprepared to talk about education and had this essentially slide deck that she hadn't thought to cull a little bit. And she talked over people's heads at some point and under them at others. And I was really disappointed because that was the only discussion specifically about AI at this meeting. And that's just not where we should be at MCCA.
Andy, any comments?
I think I agree that the first day, the trustees-only section was more beneficial, I thought. The other part, it's interesting to see what other schools are doing, it's interesting to see the presentations, but I think there was more in-depth in that first day in the trustees area. I took a couple things away that I think will be useful to have in discussions about compensation, things that I don't think we've really ever talked about as options of ways to look at that and what that means and why we do what we do. It was also interesting learning a little bit about what some of the others, how people are, this whole re-engagement, how do you keep people in, how long, how do you make them stay from all different ages. I thought that was very useful and interesting as well. So it's always good to hear a few notes there. The one school, I took like this little simple thing of dinner and a degree where they're not only having the class, but they're also serving dinner at the class, which isn't because they want people to eat. It's because a lot of people who are taking these classes, have a life, don't have time to cook, don't have time to do those things. Where there's dinner and a meal, they get a lot more accomplished. They save time for people that are there. And it was like, that's an amazing idea. of what they do and how they do it, and sometimes it's just those little things you kind of take away
Coming
from
after
there.
work, going to class, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Kennard, anything?
Yeah, the value of the MCCA meetings, as distinguished from ACCT, to me, is that you get to talk to other trustees and find out what kind of problems they're having and how they're dealing with it. I didn't think there was a lot of heavy substitute value in the sessions, except I did really appreciate the Gongwer presentation, which is the political state of affairs in Michigan, which is pretty highly accurate, and they have been for a long time, since politics affects a lot the money that we get from the state. So it was interesting to hear such an accurate representation of what's going on.
I agree. I think the AI presentation, it was head scratcher, to say the least. And that's disappointing because it's, you know, we only have so much time in these events, and that is such an important topic. So what I would like to ask Lynn, and it's likely that I just missed it, we're always given a way to give feedback. Has everyone had a chance to give feedback to MCCA? Okay, great. I know that they do read those things. I've heard the leadership there discuss the comments from the prior year, and they kind of shape it, but I was disappointed in that we had such rich content coming from this speaker related to politics, but yet he was trying to cram half of his deck into the last 10 minutes as well. It's just such a robust combination. But if we are, you know, giving that feedback to the MCCA of, you know, let's expand or contract these parts of the day, I know they did. You could see the changes that took place this year over last year.
Right.
If you remember, the end of that second day was pretty tough last year. So yeah, I think they're listening. So I will give my feedback. I have not yet, but I'll figure out how to do that. Any other discussion? Yes, Andy.
Yeah, I was gonna say one other thing. I think both Nick and the team did an amazing job. I mean, we got to celebrate one of our own there, which
Yes.
was a great thing.
Yes.
Congratulations again. But also to the fact that Nick repeated to us, but I don't think it's repeated to everyone else here, is the number of people from this organization, both alumni, teachers, and staff, who won that award. We've won 3 of the 4 in the last 4 years, and that's amazing. And that's a lot of great work from the team here who put that together to present that. But it's also the fact that we have those people here. So hats off to you and to all of you who made that happen. That's a great thing, and congratulations again.
And it's a lot of pressure on you in the back row to step up next year. Got to keep this rolling. Yes, ma'am.
2 other quick things. One, to keep our eye on, and I may or may not try to engage with them, but there is a move afoot in Lansing and a consortium of people who are looking at the Michigan Merit High School curriculum. Coincidentally, I was on the committee that did that in 2006, another story. But they're looking at changing high school graduation requirements in the high school curriculum. I don't think there's much higher ed involvement, which is a real shame, I think, because, and the calculus is a perfect example, we need more articulation between high school and college, however one chooses to go on to college. So that bears some watching. I don't know, it would take legislation. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but there is a movement afoot. And then I just wanted to say too, I think the MCCI staff is quite excellent. They really do a great job, and I think they will take care of the feedback. They'll listen to it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Well, thank you all who attended, and thank you for the feedback and the discussion. Look forward to next year. With that, we are going to move on to consent items, and wanted to ask if there was any discussion for moving any items on the consent agenda to the regular agenda. No? Okay. And with that then, I would ask for a motion to accept and adopt a group of consent items. Thank you, Laura.
Second.
Thank you, Pam. And any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. And the consent agenda passes. Next, on to the action items. S, board policies. I need a motion to recommend the adoption of the following board policies on the second reading basis.
So moved.
Laura, thank you. Support. Ken, and any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, same sign. And item S passes. Next, I need a motion to recommend authorization for the administration to enter into a contract with IX Systems for the replacement of the storage array network system at a cost of $794,947. Thank you, Kennard, and do I have a second?
Support.
Thank you, Ken. And any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Next, facilities condition assessment. I need a motion to recommend authorization for the administration to enter into a contract with Borough Veterans. Andy, thank you, for $88,000. And can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. And any discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Next, the Osterlin funding plan. Very excited to have this on our agenda. Need a motion to recommend authorization for the administration to establish a project budget for the Student Services Hub for $13,500,000 to and to proceed with an RFP for design services and construction manager.
So moved.
Right, Laura? Thank you. And how about a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Any discussion?
Yes.
Pam?
This is just a request. Although I think co-location of a variety of student services is helpful for student success, it's not sufficient. And so as time goes on, Lindsay's nodding, I love that. I'd like to hear more about what else is going to happen in terms of online services that are streamlined, more user-friendly, as well as cross-training of staff, and how things are going to be different in addition to co-location. And then how are we going to measure those differences in terms of their impact? So I'd like a plan in place for those kinds of things as well as measurement.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
Yeah, I had a question of, we're doing this now because we have this fund to be able to do this. At some point, we're going to obviously have to look at dollars from the foundation as well for capital projects. Was that discussion held at all, and what were the pluses and minuses of that during that time?
Held when? During the building and site?
Yeah.
Not during building and site, related to foundation funds of capital.
Well,
Outside of the 2 million that's in there now
Okay.
for this particular project, right? 2 million, Troy, right? And then, yeah, outside of that.
Will it
We didn't discuss it.
part of the campaign to supplement this with?
What specifically are you trying to get at so we can answer it? What-
I'm just curious if the discussion's been, I mean, we're taking this from bucket A.
Uh-huh.
There is bucket B. There is, how are we going to think about that going forward? And did we discuss it here of looking to say, we don't want to spend the money from this bucket, we want to spend the money from other pull from the foundation on the capital side?
I think, Nick, could you maybe pick this up, and maybe Troy, if you want to discuss how that decision is made, whether we go to the foundation with a request that might be more significant than what they've already contributed, or how that process works?
Yeah, so, I don't want to speak for Megan or Catherine, but I know that as the campaign started, they did a case study to see what donors were interested in. This project was one that we knew donors had interest in giving to because it's a student success project. There was not the same level of interest even for a renewable energy project like the geothermal So we didn't rely on donor funds for that project. The 2 million was really just what we thought was realistic with this campaign. We do have some money already, but we did see opportunity to use foundation funding, and that's why we included that as part of the budget.
Does the 2 million include a naming as well?
I can't speak for that. We have, I think our foundation has to set up, you know, what a naming gift might look like for this project.
And if you were to look at another project like this, do you expect a larger percent to come from a foundation piece? I mean, we obviously have other unallocated dollars from the sale, but I'm curious on how fast we start to do more of these.
You know, as a for example, so in the case for support of the new campaign, you've got two other really big ticket items. One, Denos, which is really looking at an operational endowment. So that is something we're looking to the foundation for strong support. Another would be what we're calling leading in the blue economy. So support of marine tech, maritime, FRIC related expenses. That will also be looking for significant foundation support. So those are kind of the 3 or 4 key foundation support elements. There's many more that didn't make the list because in those conversations with donors, they either said, we're not willing to support this, or it's not of interest. So that's how we hone in on those 3 or 4 key things.
I think the Denos has an annual support from the foundation as well, which is, it's just another way the foundation supports us. And it's all, as I understand it at least, perfectly within the purview of the foundation.
And I think any of these projects, Andy, like for example with aviation, you know, we sit down and we'll say, you know, here's the cost, 20 million. Well, we think we can get this from state. What about foundation? What about, you know, all the other sort of buckets, congressional, you know, earmarks. And then it's sort of this more craft of putting together that sort of financing plan.
I'm asking a lot because I'm interested, you know, we have a strong foundation, we have a strong balance. I think one of the big questions we're all going to have to think about it in the next 3 years is how much can we put on our plates and how much can we do at once? And how much money we have to do that in the time frame that we do that is driving that decision. And that's why I was really curious on how we're thinking about that.
I think it's a great question, particularly as we look out, because to remind folks, the next thing on the capital plan, or you know, the campus master plan, is housing. And granted, there's a lot of different variations that we might consider with housing, but we know that it's got an upper limit of probably 100 million. So it can be anywhere between, you know, 0 and 100 million that we're going to look at, because we're talking about tearing down the existing apartments and rebuilding, tearing down East Hall and rebuilding, and then probably a separate new accommodation, and maybe something even, you know, on the existing Front Street Flats area. So we know there's at least 4, you know, possibilities that have emerged through the campus master plan. We know it's significant funding. Some part of that, you know, will probably be foundation, but I think a large part of that's probably going to be through financing.
But I think Andy's question is a really important one. And when you were referring to, actually, when you were, Troy, you were mentioning that the what's the name of the company that's working on the campaign?
I can't, yeah. Winkler Group, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. When they were talking to people, that they said one of the great desires was the student success. So now the foundation's putting money into that, but we have a campaign coming up, and I guess the question is, how much should the campaign itself be targeting some of these specific master plan projects? And housing is a great example of that. That might be something, maybe there'd be interest among donors, maybe not. But that's something that probably needs to be resolved at a relatively early stage, and I suspect will be, trying to figure out what what will be pushed when it comes to that effort.
Thanks for the question, Ken. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Bilesma. I am the acting executive director right now in Catherine's departure. To answer that question, we did explore housing with the donors. It didn't score very high on that support level, and so we will be looking for unrestricted funds for the fund for NMC as well to try and boost that up so that we can supplement those other areas.
I think the other reason I'm asking is this issue has been here for a long time. Did we make the right decision 3 or 4 years ago? Should we have looked to fund this and do this earlier? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, but I think we should think about that in this kind of, I mean, it took us a long time to get to this point. And I'm not saying that's bad, I'm not saying it's good. It's, should we have looked for other ways to fund this earlier on? And I don't know there's a right answer to that.
We
but-
did multiple times, but there was not the option until this. I would just like to add, as it relates to building the site committee for this particular action item, that the other conversation at building and site was related to, as we get into very visible building movement, redesigns here, that Troy and team are very cognizant of design and consistency, so that as we enhance our properties, that we're not getting different looks and feels along the way. And I think that's also important to note, that the building and site team was aware of that.
I had early reservations about the Osterlin project based on a comment that Pam made at one of our study sessions, which was, shouldn't this all be online? Because it is at a lot of universities and colleges. But when you step back and think about it, that's a little bit of narrow blinder looking. It's looking from the point of view, like everybody in this room, who can do it online. But we have a lot of students who can't do it online, either because they don't know how to do online, or they don't have access to a computer, or they have a computer, they don't have access to internet. So this will pick up some of those students who otherwise would be missed.
Any other discussion? Megan, sorry, I didn't spot you in the crowd. I should have asked for you. Thank you for your help. Any other discussion? Okay. Well, we have a motion, we have a second, and now I'd like to call a vote. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? None, and the motion carries. Thank you. Next is the foundation office renovation. I need a motion to recommend authorization for the administration and to enter into a contract with Triangle Associates for an amount not to exceed $213,840, which includes base fees of $189,000, and so on. So funded by the Boardman Lake campus sale proceeds.
So moved.
Thank you, Ken. And a second, please.
Support.
All right, Pam, thank you. And any discussion? None? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion carries. Thank you. And review, Lynn, some follow-ups. I have Andy's request for MMTC like situations, any other on campus. And then, what else do you have?
I sent the link to the MCC Summer Conference survey.
Great. And then some follow-up related to Pam. You had asked for some measurables related to effectiveness in, help me out here, design, Osterlin.
Yeah.
Yep, the student success.
That will be ongoing, I'm sure
Sure.
it'll be iterative.
Okay.
so that's
Any other
fine.
follow-up?
Yeah, I don't think we got a follow-up from last month. And that related to unspent scholarship funds from last year's packaging. And so maybe at the September meeting, we could get an update on how packaging was done differently and how we hope a greater proportion of available scholarship funds are going to be spent.
I know that Todd has just finished up that
Okay.
report, and I got
Okay,
it
great.
yesterday, so
Okay. 'cause
it
I
is on
think-
our agenda, I think, tomorrow.
Okay, because I'm going to guess the foundation board is going to want that next week. So, or at least an update. And I know we want that as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you all. We are adjourned.